Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome back to the DraftKings DFS Slate preview. First of all, Happy New Year. This is my first video of 2025. It was actually like my best ever year for DFS. So I'm really hoping we can just continue that momentum on for this year and just have another wonderful time. In terms of this slate, it is an EPL five gamer. Aston Villa and Man City, the two biggest favorites, minus 330 and minus 300. Bournemouth also minus odds at minus 140. And then Chelsea minus odds at minus 100 as well, with Southampton and Brentford as the only both teams with plus odds game. In terms of projected lineups and set pieces, for Brentford, it should be Mbuemo and Damsgaard. However, Jensen is easing his way back to fitness, came on off the bench last game, and I imagine he'll end up being the guy splitting with Mbuemo when fully fit and starting. And then for Southampton, who knows under Juric? He's fresh. It was like Fernandez and Dibbling semi-split last game. Fernandez is suspended for this game, and Manning is projected to start for the first time. And if he does, I feel like he just should take. He's kind of always been a set taking player for Southampton, although of course it is now Juric as the head coach, so he could definitely shake things up there. I think it'll be definitely one of Dibbling or Manning, potentially Monopoly, but I think one of them will take something for sure. Bournemouth and Everton should be for Bournemouth, it should be Christie and Cook. Dibbling ended up starting last game, which was the big surprise, and he ended up being the guy to split with Cook. But I don't really see him starting two games in a row, and it should just go back to being Christie and Cook. And then for Everton, it should be Lindstrom, potentially Monopoly in this team. There's a chance that Jack Harrison splits, but Lindstrom will take something if he starts. He just has not played that many minutes lately, and it's been Njai or Harrison splitting typically. Aston Villa and Leicester. Aston Villa are always a mess for set pieces. Tielemans should take something. Digne should take something. Then you got McGinn, Bailey all taking one-offs all over the place. And then for Leicester, it should be El Canus and Christensen split. If Jordan Ayew starts, I think he potentially takes off of El Canus. Same with Buonanotte. He potentially take off of Christensen. But it should be a lefty-righty split one way or another. For Crystal Palace and Chelsea, it should be Will Hughes and Eze for Palace. And then for Chelsea, it should be Palmer and Enzo Fernandez. Those are two pretty self-explanatory teams there. Man City and West Ham. In this team, it'll probably be a De Bruyne and Foden split. I hope one of them gets rested just because it makes the other one a lock and not having to choose in between them likely, or potentially having a hard time jamming both. And then for West Ham, it should be in this team, I want to say Emerson and Soler, although Somerville can take, and it can really be any combo of those three guys. Prices. Oh, I did something. There we go. Prices. Holland, most expensive, healthy forward. And I think this is underpriced for him, 10,300. He was like, what, 11 and a half last game? Similar odds for this matchup. Finally broke his duck. Had a decent he was just involved, which he has not been recently. Like, he had 6 shots, three on target, 21, 22 points almost. And because of the lack of floor forwards on this slate, I think Holland is just a really good option, even in cash. Watkins, I think, is super tempting too because Duran is injured, making him like a 90-minute guy. Like, I could really see myself like double going like these goal dependent attackers just because they have good matchups and there's really no threat to their minutes. And it's not like I can go like a McNeil or something. Unless McNeil like miraculously recovers. That'd be a interesting alternative to those guys. But if he doesn't, like there's really not that many floor attackers. Like there is Savinha, you can argue does have a bit of a floor to him. However, he's not always a 90-minute guy like he has been last couple games. Like I were used to like these 70s quite often. And especially as Man City get more healthy in attack, like they're already not missing as many forwards now. It's just like Rodri and the center backs that are missing. But Yeah, just like Savini's just not a guaranteed 90. And I feel like I'd rather trade his slightly higher floor for the significantly higher upside of a Holland, of a Watkins. Other guys though who I'm considering, Ouattara, maybe he's a little expensive. But like a Semenyo, 500 seems fair. The Chelsea guys like Neto, Sancho, and Jai if there's no Lindstrom, Jack Harrison, I can get behind two at 5K. And another dude who I don't really mind at all is Jordan Ayew if he starts. Should have set pieces. And I think he's dealing with or he had a suspension last game. If he starts like at 4,200, that is a forward with floor for pretty cheap. Even though Aston Villa's a tough matchup, that's not bad for 4K. Midfielders, Palmer, De Bruyne, Blamo, Foden, all super big names here, all super interesting. I just don't know if it's a Palmer slate just because he's so expensive compared to the City guys with better matchups. I know Man City didn't do anything crazy against Leicester. They had like less possession, which is you never see under Pep, which could show he's maybe trying to prioritize results just slightly more than he has been rather than the process. But I'm happy to go back to a De Bruyne or Foden, potentially even over Palmer, just because he's more expensive. I love Cole Palmer, but like if there was a time to fade him, this is probably it just because of the Man City matchups. I'd love if De Bruyne or Foden got benched just because it'd make the other one so much more appealing, like I said earlier. It'd make the decision between like what one or two of those three guys to go a lot easier. But like, you're definitely going at least one of those three for sure. In terms of like strictly mids, I don't really think it's an as I don't if there's no Will Hughes again, as he becomes a little bit more tempting. I screwed up not playing him last game. I played Foden over him, which ended up being a mistake. But it's a tougher matchup against Chelsea. Dog is having a chew, so I hope is not too loud. But yeah, I think you just should go Palmer or De Bruyne or Foden or some combo of those guys over as in cash games at least. Tielemans, I don't really think he has the upside. He lost his penalty kicks. He got there last game against Brighton, but he doesn't do that often these days. Like he's more of a 6 point floor guy than a 10. He's not really worth for how much he is. Um, Other mids I'm looking at, like Lindstrom. I don't mind at 6,400. That's kind of tempting. Then we got like the Villa guys, like McGinn. There's gonna be a lot of them we're gonna come up on. Lewis Cook. I just don't think he has the upside for that much. But other mids like Jensen, if he somehow starts, is not bad at 4,600. Then all these Villa attackers like Jacob Ramsey, 4,400. Dibbling two at 4,200, potentially if you want to gamble on him having set priority over Manning. Got there last game I had him. Of course, the trade off. I mean, not the trade off. I'm sorry. The good thing about him is even if he doesn't have sets, he's typically solid 4 minutes, and he's just a cheap attacker at worst, which is not that bad. But then like Leon Bailey too. He had that crazy floor. 15 floor he had against Brighton. I don't mind that now that he's back to health. Like I think that's a super tempting option as well. Like there's quite a bit of cheap mids and just makes that position even more crowded considering you got all these good payups, all these good punts, and just makes me even more tempted to go like Holland and Watkins in forward just because there's so many more alternatives in mid than there is in forward. I missed Christie too. Where is he? 4,700 too. Like once again, not that bad of a play. So yeah, like I said, plenty of options in the mid slots. Defenders, Digne is the big payoff. I think you probably just play him here because he should have set pieces. He's been typically pretty solid. He has an off game every once in a while, but I just don't really see Leicester at home being that bogey game for him. I know he's a little expensive at 5,700, but like when you look at the other defenders on this site, there's no one who really pops out at you. I think Digne is just a safe guy to go considering you can find value, especially in those mid slots. Other guys, though, like I'm tempted by Manning. I might gamble on him potentially having sets similar to Dibbling, even if he doesn't. Another guy who typically just gets there. He's pretty solid, has a lot of open play value. The issue with him typically is that he's just not always a 90-minute guy these days. He has not even played at all under Urich. But if he gives him a chance, he's been super solid even when he's been limited. Other guys, though, I'm looking for Christensen. Where is he? 3,400. That's super tempting too, especially if there's no Buonanotte. He should have sets 3K. That is super awesome to play. So yeah, there's several pretty all right value pieces like I talked about. So there's 4K mids, Christensen, Manning, plenty of ways to go here. And goalkeeper, as always, crapshoot. Not a ton to say. Play whoever fits the rest of the build in cash. And in terms of a core, I think you start Dinier. I think you just go Holland here too. I think you start those two guys. The next spot is a little more tough. I want to say De Bruyne or Foden. If both stars, it becomes a lot more difficult. I think I'd go back to the well with De Bruyne despite him not being great last game. I feel like he's so due, and he's cheaper than he was than that Leicester game. But you can really make an argument for any of him, Foden, Palmer. I could potentially have a D in core, but then it's tough between Christensen and Manning. That'd be a lot easier decision if we see a benching for one of those guys or Buonanotte in potentially. If a Dibbling doesn't start, that makes Manning probably an auto chance of set pieces. That'd make my decision a lot easier too for a core piece. But I'm gonna mix match all these guys in GPP, and it'll just come to what combo looks right in cash. And yeah, guys, make sure to check out the FSI Discord, link through the website below. And I hope you all have a good new year.